YouTube is full of conflicting advice. One video tells you to post daily shorts. Another swears by long-form storytelling. Or how about vlogging? Don't forget the B-roll. Oh, but not too much B-roll because people don't like that anymore. Oh, and don't forget, it's quality over quantity. But make sure that you upload at least 1 to 2 times a week and more, but not too much because then the viewer can't catch up. But then don't disappear because then they're gonna forget about you and find somebody else. And what about jump cuts, retention editing? Oh, and those thumbnails that look like Mr. Beast. Oh wait, forget about the editing. Retention editing is out. Nobody does that anymore. Just, go live and be chill. It's no wonder you feel overwhelmed. But here's the truth. There's no one-size-fits-all strategy for YouTube. And following the wrong strategy will make it nearly impossible for you to get out of small channel hell if that's where you're at right now, or unstuck if you feel like you haven't seen any growth for a while. I'm Erika Vieira, a YouTube channel producer, and for nearly a decade, I've helped over 2,000 YouTube creators, each with different niches, lifestyles, and goals, build channels that actually work for them. And the reason that they succeed isn't because they followed some cookie cutter strategy. It's because they figured out what actually fits their life, their niche, and their business. In this casual, chatty, get unready with me, I'm breaking down the 3 things you must understand before you follow anybody's YouTube advice so you can build a channel that's profitable, sustainable, and uniquely yours. Ladies, class is in session. Start with talking about the problem with YouTube advice and how this contributes to this problem. I did a whole video on that, so you might want to check that out. It's a really good video, actually. Because you watch one video and you think, oh, I need to be doing these high retention Mr. Beast edits. And then you watch another one that says, oh, YouTube is super easy. You just need to be consistent and throw on the camera and don't even care about editing. And then you see people doing live streams and you think, oh, should I be doing live streams? That's the thing. Everyone says do live streams. And then you're like, oh, do shorts. Everyone's doing shorts now. Am I missing out by not doing shorts? YouTube advice is great. I'm part of that community. I have this channel here. I'm not like saying YouTube advice, your channels are bad when I am a YouTube advice channel. But the thing to remember is that you're getting advice from different people that have their own goals, that have their own audiences, that have their own monetization goals. So that whatever they're doing might not necessarily apply to you or your audience. And you have to really remember that. You've got certain channels that will thrive with Mr. Beast retention style editing, and that might be the fix. But other channels, that isn't the fix. They might spend all this time and energy on that kind of editing, and it really doesn't seem to move the needle. There's another issue going on. Same thing with going live. Maybe for some niches, it makes absolutely no sense, but from other ones, it makes sense for that specific audience. That is actually what I do in my bootcamp and with my clients. That's the reason why people join. And I hear this all the time. They're like, oh yeah, I watched YouTube advice channels for years, right? And it's like I would take a few steps forward and then take a few steps back. You don't know what you don't know, and when you're blindly following advice that might not be suited for you, that's where you can actually get yourself in trouble and waste a lot of time. Having that experience myself, working with thousands of channels for almost 10 years, here's the one thing I know for sure. What did Oprah used to say? The one thing I know for sure. She had something like that. There is not one route to YouTube success. Every single person has their own unique route to success. And what does that mean? That means that the strategies for each individual person are different. Some creators blow up with long form. Some creators blow up with shorts. Some people upload once a week. Some people will upload 3 times a week. And all of those things can be very successful. The creator uploading 1 video a week can be equally as successful as a creator uploading 3 times a week. So this is super, super important for you to understand, and I really want you to take this in, is what actually works truly depends on you. That's why I'm going to talk about these 3 things that you need to think about when you are building your own strategy. All right, number 1 is your lifestyle. So, let's be real. Can you realistically upload 3 times a week? Or does that not make sense for your lifestyle? Or maybe it does. Do you work full time? Do you have kids? Are you doing this on your own? Do you have a team? Do you have anybody that helps you? Somebody that has 15, 20 hours a week plus to work on their YouTube channel is going to have a very different strategy than someone that only has 5 hours a week. And you have to take this in mind because you have to take the time that you have and make it the most productive for you. So if you only have 5 hours a week, but you're trying to do 2 or 3 videos a week, it's not going to work because those videos are going to be rushed and they're not going to be done well. In your case, you're better off doing less content, but doing it well. But if you're someone that has 20 hours a week and there's a possibility you can upload 2 videos a week, then you want to try and do that. Even if you think, well, the best strategy is for me to do 2 videos a week because that's what everyone's doing in my industry, it's not worth it if you only have those 5 or so or 7 hours a week to work on your channel. Because what happens is that you're going to burn out. And I see people burn out all the time because they're working on a strategy that is not completely customized to them. And when you burn out, you're done with YouTube. And that does happen. I'd much rather see you create some content than create too much and get burnt out and quit altogether. So if you only have time to upload once a week, then that video has to work. You need a focused, high leverage strategy, not throwaway content. If you have time to post more frequently, then you have room to test, you have room to experiment, you have room to find your format faster. And that's fine. It is what it is. All right, the next thing is your niche and content type. So you really want to think about what is your niche. In my bootcamp, we go into detail about figuring out your niche. I have my new AI tool that is incredible for helping people zero in on their unique niche for them. And it's a big consideration when you are thinking about your strategy. You know, a how-to channel won't grow the same way as a true crime or a commentary channel will grow. What about beauty, lifestyle, education, shopping? Each one has different formats. Each one has different audience behavior. I've seen beauty channels thrive on high quality tutorials. I've seen commentary channels thrive on very casual filming setups. I've also seen commentary channels that have a lot of retention editing that work really well. So each niche is a little bit different. Your niche does play a part in your overall strategy. That is something you want to really think about and consider as you're watching YouTube videos, as you're coming up with your own strategy. And that's where having an understanding of what's going on in your own niche works. I've had people come to me who they want to go on YouTube and they're excited to be on YouTube, but they're like, I literally never watch YouTube. And I'm like, you have to an extent. You don't have to sit there and watch it like I do for hours and hours and hours because that's my job. That's what I do. But you need to have some familiarity of the platform just so you know how it works. And then also so you have an understanding of what's going on in your niche, what's working, what are the types of videos people are doing as far as the format, the length, the quality. All those types of things matter when you're coming up with the strategy for your videos. Understanding how your niche behaves on YouTube is crucial. Now, the third thing you want to think about is your monetization plan. What is your monetization plan? And that's the one thing I ask my boot campers. I have a whole lesson in the boot camp about this, is you need to think about how are you planning on making money? You don't necessarily need to be making money right away. In fact, most YouTube creators are not making money right away. And in some ways, I say that's actually the best approach, is to fully focus on the content, fully focus on creating really good content on the viewer. And if you do that and you do it well, the money will come. But you do want to have a vision for what that looks like eventually. Even if you're not chasing it at the moment, you do need to have an eventual goal, an eventual idea. And that does play a part in your overall strategy. I always say YouTube success is the intersection of authentic alignment. This is why in my bootcamp, I focus so much on your own YouTube personal brand, because that is massive. So authentic alignment, personalized strategy, which is what we're talking about here, and smart monetization. Those 3 things is what equals YouTube success. So like a business owner selling services or digital products has different goals than an influencer who's monetizing through brand deals or affiliate links. Business owners, they care far more about attracting that right person, attracting that buying customer and client, whereas influencers definitely care more about views. Higher views, generally equals more affiliate revenue. You need more of those views in order to attract the brands. So business owners, it's very much how-to content, and maybe they're not as concerned about going viral. Influencers might prioritize trends or a visual aesthetic to attract sponsors. So knowing your money path, your money vision, that changes your strategy. One of my clients, her monetization strategy is very much around brand deals. We are very, very careful about the topics we select because it's twofold. We have to make sure that we're making the brand happy, but at the same time, ensuring that we're providing value to the viewer. So her strategy, the topics we select, the types of the videos, is very much based upon that monetization strategy. And then, of course, at the same time, it's also her niche. We have to make sure that her niche remains happy, they keep coming back for more, and that plays a big, big part in our strategy and the types of videos that we create and the types of thumbnails that we do. Now, one client, she's got upwards of 400,000 subscribers. So she is generating her income as an influencer because she's generating income from the brand deals, from AdSense, from affiliate income. And we're very aware of each video. What is the ROI of that video specifically? Is it from the brand deal? Is it from the affiliates? We'll choose certain video topics just based upon whether or not, like, we know that, oh great, there's this big sale happening. We know that she's gonna kill it with affiliates for that specific sale. It's not so much about the views, that video, it's really about how much does it convert to sales. And I have a lot of clients like that have kind of these shopping related channels. But then, for example, I have another client, and for her, it's really about selling her course. She has an online course, and we're not as concerned with the views. While the views are important, like in every case, the views are important because the more views you get, the more eyeballs you get, and the more eyeballs you get, the more sales you get ultimately. But it really is though about creating being smart about the videos and the topics, and about mentioning the course in a very specific way so that it converts into leads for her. And that one client has said that when she tracks every single lead very, very, very carefully, that YouTube has now surpassed both Instagram and podcasts and even ads as her number one lead generation, which is huge. That's massive. And that's going to play a big part into the strategy. So I have another client that she's very, very busy and she really wants to make YouTube work, but she only has time for one video a week. Would I love for her to do 2 videos a week? Yes, I would actually. Actually, the last client who I was talking about with the course, she only wanted to do 1 video a week, but I did really want her to do 2 videos a week. We talked about it, and she did decide to do 2 videos a week. She cut back on some other things that she was doing in her life, which that's the other thing. That's a whole nother topic. And I've done other Get Ready with Me's and videos about this. Is, are you willing to sacrifice what you need to do? If you say that you only have 5 hours a week and that's your lifestyle, is that truly the case? Could you not watch TV anymore? Could you avoid going out? Could you maybe get up an hour earlier or go to bed an hour later? Could you find those extra hours in the week so that you can really make YouTube work for you? I always say YouTube, you have to make some sacrifices, because if you're not willing to do it, a lot of people aren't willing to do it. And that's why most people don't succeed on YouTube. I'm not talking about like you guys that are here watching. I'm talking about like just the general population that always look at YouTubers and be like, oh my God, that'd be like so cool. Or wow, I should really start a YouTube channel. And it's that like someday thing, and they never get around to doing it. It's because they're not willing to make the sacrifice to take the time to do it, or they're scared. There's all these different reasons. And maybe that is you that's watching this video. And maybe this is a kick in the butt that you need to finally get started and to do it and to create that YouTube channel, create that legacy for yourself, so that a year from now, your future self will thank you for doing what you're doing today. So anyways, that one client who initially was like, I'm only, the one I was just talking about, the one with the course, who said, I can only do 1 video a week. I convinced her to do 2 videos a week. And she saw a lot of success with her channel. It took a while. It takes a little bit of time. It took a while, but eventually she was really seeing her hard work and energy pay off. And we uploaded 2 videos a week, probably for a good, I want to say, 1.5 years. And just recently, she decided to go down to 1 a week. And she's like, you know what? Where I'm at with my business, I have to devote some time to a few other things in the business. I'm still going to be on YouTube, but I'm scaling back a little bit to 1 video a week. And we're kind of in that experimental phase right now. Like, okay, let's see. Does that really impact the growth? And she's like, this isn't a forever thing. I might decide, hey, I want to go back to 2 a week. But right now, I'm going to go down to 1 a week because that is what fits my lifestyle. And strategically, it works. We're on a good momentum. We're getting some good views. We'll see how it impacts it. But then I have that other client who said, I really only want to do 1 video a week. And I said, okay, let's do it. So we did it. And she was very consistent with that 1 a week. She put a lot of energy and time into that 1 video. Not too much time. As much time as she was able to give, she did it. And she listened to everything I said as far as the editing and the thumbnails and the titles and the topics. And sure enough, about 6 months later, her channel really started to blow up. And we got really excited. So then she was very, very consistent with that 1 a week. And then I did say, hey, is there ever a world or a place where you might be able to do 2 a week just for a month? We're very strategic about the month that we selected because I knew that was a really good season and time for her type of content. She says, you know what? Let's plan for that. And we planned for that actually several months in advance. She's like, let's do that. And she was creating extra content for several months. And interestingly enough, her channel didn't start blowing up at that time, but it started to blow up probably a month or 2 after that. And I definitely think upping to 2 videos a week helped contribute to that. So for that 1 month, she did do 2 videos a week, and that is something that we're going to do on a 2 or 3 times a year basis. It was worth it for her to do that. She did sacrifice a few things. She's like, I'm not going to be traveling those months. I'm cutting back on certain things in my life so that I can make sure that I can get the time in to upload those 2 videos a week. So we adjusted and changed her strategy based on what her lifestyle was at the moment. For both of those clients, the strategy was very much based upon their lifestyle. All these different clients, I'm telling you, they succeeded, but with different plans. I have another client and she does YouTube full time. And for her, while she's uploading 3-4 times a week, we're doing it in a way that is sustainable and for her own lifestyle. She was a client who actually was doing a lot more than that. And it was really a waste of time because she wasn't seeing the ROI back from that work. But after we were working together, we were very deliberate with her monetization strategy and made sure that each of those videos that we uploaded is for a very specific purpose as far as generating an income. And keep in mind, all of this goes without saying that you always have to consider the viewer in mind. There always has to be value. So even though I'm mentioning like monetization and that's a strategy, but it's coupled with always considering the viewer. But sometimes people, they only consider the viewer and then they burn out because they're not making any money. And that's an issue, is that creators burn out, because I see that all the time. That's why I bring that up a lot here on these videos. So this is kind of like your own little self-audit. These are the things that I go through with my clients. I have these pretty in-depth discussions, especially when I'm working with people one-on-one. We do this in the bootcamp when people come onto the calls, and I really ask them some important and maybe tough questions, but this helps me determine what is the appropriate strategy for this person. And the first question that you want to ask yourself is, what is your realistic capacity for creating content? This is where you want to be really honest with yourself. I have a client that has 2 kids and she's a doctor, but she makes the time, actually. I give her a lot of credit because she's excited about YouTube. She's making the time. And I made the assumption in first working with her that she was only going to have just a certain amount of time a week. I thought it was going to be a lot less, but she said, no, I can do, I forget how many hours a week she said. I can do 15 hours a week. I can do that. I was like, all right, let's see. She's like, no, I am committed. I will do that. Okay. The strategy that I gave her would have been very different if she said, I really can only do 5 or 10 hours a week. All right. So you have to be very, very, very honest with yourself on what you can realistically do and commit to. And maybe it's a seasonal thing. Maybe you say, you know what? It's summer. This is a tough time of year for me because I've got kids and the kids are home. So right now during summer, I'm only going to do 1 video a week. But when school starts, I will be able to do 2 videos a week. Now I have another client who actually is a teacher, and she's like, I want to work with you now because summer is the time for me to do this and to go hard. Because when school starts, I'm not going to be able to give as much time. I'm really only going to be able to do maybe 1 video a week. And right now I want to bang out a whole bunch of videos. So that's the other thing I think people forget too, is that we're human, we have lives. You can adjust and change your strategy. If it's no longer suiting you, you can go from 2 days a week down to 1 day a week. You can go from 1 video a week to 2 videos a week. It doesn't have to be set in stone either, and you can look at where you're at in this moment and say, right now I can only handle once a week, okay? Especially if you're new. I get a lot of people too, when they're first starting to work with me, if they're new, they're like, you know what, as we're figuring things out, as I'm understanding YouTube, I really only have the capacity to do 1 video a week. But my goal is in 90 days, I'm gonna wanna consistently do 2 videos a week. I'm moving things around in my schedule, I'm moving things around in my life so that I am able to do that. The second question that you wanna ask yourself is, what niche am I in? And how does content typically perform there? So that is where just having an understanding of your niche. I mentioned that earlier. Understand what your niche is, understand the players in your niche, what they're doing, how they're operating, and consider adjusting or reflecting your strategy on that. I think that's where a lot of women, they come find me and they eventually work with me because they realize that I know and understand women's audiences and the types of channels that women gravitate towards. I think people will get a lot of information on YouTube, which is all really good information. Like, I'm not knocking it. It's all good. Everyone's good. They're smart. They know their stuff, but there are different strategies for different types of channels. Shopping channels is very different than a how-to channel, which is different than a gaming channel, which is different than a kids channel. All of these are different and they have their own unique strategies. And you should be listening to and taking advice from people that know and understand those channels inside and out. It's extremely important that if you are watching people on YouTube, if you are taking advice from people, that they know your niche and they understand your niche. So the next question that you want to ask yourself is, what is my monetization goal? What is that big picture vision that I want for my YouTube channel? How I talk about the YouTube monetization diamond all the time. I've done other videos on it, and there's 4 ways to make money on YouTube. There is AdSense, there are brand deals, there are your own products and services, and there are affiliates. Which corners of the monetization diamond are you going to be hitting? Which are those that you're going to be focusing on? That plays a part in how you approach your channel. And this is one of the questions I always ask people. I ask people this in the bootcamp. I ask people this when I'm working one-on-one. What is your long-term goal with your YouTube channel? Are you looking to do YouTube full-time? Is this just like a side income thing for you? Do you have an idea of a product in mind? Are you wanting to make money from affiliates? You need to prime your audience to expect that from you. And then a few more bonus questions you want to ask yourself. Can I batch film? Do I have any support, or am I doing it alone? Or do I want to get support? Do I have anyone on my team? Is that a goal? Do I eventually want to have people on my team? And if so, how will that change my workflow? How might that impact the amount of content that I can get done on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? And then finally, what advice am I taking that might not even apply to me? So who am I watching? Who am I paying attention to? Who am I asking? And can I really take that person's advice? Do they understand my own circumstances and personal situation? Does that person understand my niche? Does that person understand my monetization goals? That's pretty much it. The main recap is those 3 things you need to consider is 1, what is your lifestyle? What is your capacity? 2, what is your niche and what are people doing there? And 3, what are your monetization goals? Those are the 3 things that make a big impact on what your strategy is gonna look like. So I'm gonna come back and show you the final look.